Only about 10% of Americans will ever hit $1 million in net worth. The average millionaire hits that number around age 49, not 29 and not 39. For me, I think I hit $1 million in net worth at 37 years old, multi-million at 39, and then beyond that at about 42. But I would say on average, it's about 49 years old. But what's wild is over about 80% of millionaires are first generation millionaires. They didn't inherit it, they built it. And that's what I want to talk about today, because that means if they can do it, then you can do it as well, because it's not an accident, it is a formula. So even when I started on my own transformation to building wealth, I used to think $1 million was some fantasy number that I couldn't really even imagine it. But over the years, as my own portfolio has grown through businesses and real estate and investments, I realized something. Wealth doesn't just come from one big move. It comes from a series of boring, consistent moves that compound over time. It took me about 5.5 years to have my first million. The next million took literally less than half that time, because once you start to build the habits and you start to build the systems, the money starts catching up and it builds momentum. So let's dive into the 7 steps that are going to help you reach your first million, no matter where you're starting. Step number 1, master the first 100,000. Now, I previously made a video to this that you could find in the show notes, but really that first 100,000 is the foundation. Now, we covered that in an episode before, and I broke down for you why that money starts to pick up momentum and how it starts to work for you, not against you. Because $100,000 compounded at 10% interest becomes $259,000 in 10 years without you ever adding another dime. So the first rule to becoming a millionaire is actually getting your snowball rolling. Step number 2, increase your income streams, not just your effort. A big myth and a big problem is most of you think working hard is the answer, and I want you to know it is not. The average millionaire has 7 streams of income. I'll say it again, 7 streams of income. But 80% of those streams usually come from business ownership and investments, not jobs. Side hustles, businesses, systems, ownership. That's what you want to have. So you definitely can't save your way to $1 million. You have to scale your way there. Step number 3. Automate and invest aggressively, and I do mean aggressively. What this means is consistent investing beats perfect timing every single time. Invest at least 20% of your income into assets that grow, whether that be index funds, ETFs, real estate, private equity. We have to have vehicles that's going to make your money work independent of you working. So a great example is if we're investing $1,500 a month at 10% interest, then we're going to hit $1 million in about 23 years. If we're investing $2,500 a month, we're going to hit $1 million in about 16 years. And if we start investing $4,000 a month, we're going to hit $1 million in about 11 years. Get that? 11 years. So your millionaire timeline isn't a mystery. It's simply math. Step number 4, build an ownership mindset. And I would say this might be the most important step out of all of them, because employees trade time for money. Owners trade systems for results. So start with what you know. It could be coaching, it could be consulting, it could be digital products, it could be real estate, it can be literally anything. But if you don't own anything, you're just renting your life out 1 hour at a time, and we're not utilizing leverage, which doesn't allow you to work at scale. Step number 5, protect against lifestyle inflation. So 40% of people who make 6 figures or more are still living paycheck to paycheck. And that's just proof that more money does not solve money problems. Every raise, every bonus, every windfall increases your investing percentage. So you can't become a millionaire if you act like one before you actually are one. So for my wife and I, even before we got new vehicles, we had a rule. And that rule was we never ever buy a new car until we've bought the next investment property. We never ever buy a new car until we've invested at least the same amount that the car is going to cost us. Step number 6, use the 70-10-10-10 rule. And this is the rule that is going to give you systems in what your money does. So it simply says for every dollar that you earn, then you only live off of 70% of that dollar. The first 10% of that dollar, you're going to save it, preferably in a high yield bank account. The next 10% of that dollar, you're going to make sure that you invest that. And the last 10% of that dollar, you're going to make sure that you give that away, either to your place of worship or your favorite charity. Here's the situation. Most people never build wealth because they never build systems and they never build structure. They simply don't have rules and frameworks that they follow. So their money actually starts controlling you instead of you controlling your money. Step number 7, stay in the long game long enough for compounding to start winning. So what we've seen is the S&P 500 has averaged about 10 or 11% annual returns over the last 50 years. So if you stay consistent for about 20 or 25 years, your wealth literally will become inevitable, like whether you do anything or you don't. So a good example is if we have about 500,000 at 10% interest, that is going to double every about 7.2 years. So if I have 500,000 invested, 7 years later, it's going to go to $1 million. Then 7 years after that, that million is going to go to 2 million. And then 7 years after that, that 2 million is going to go to 4. And then 7 years after that, that 4 to 8. And it's just going to keep doing that, just because you stayed invested. So investing is not about knowledge. I promise you it's not about you being smart, but it is about you being less stupid than the next person. It is about waiting. It is about habits that you follow that are disciplined, that is consistency, and about your patience, because time is the greatest multiplier of wealth, but only for those who don't quit early. So if you've ever thought that becoming a millionaire was out of reach, stop thinking about the million and start thinking about the behaviors that create it. There is a framework and there is a playbook. Reaching $1 million is absolutely about identity. Nothing more, nothing less. The moment you start seeing yourself as an investor, as an owner, and as a builder, that's when your life changes. So your goal isn't the million. It's to become the type of person who can never lose it once you make it. $1 million doesn't change your habits. Your habits are what creates the million. Until the next video, just remember, becoming a millionaire isn't luck. It's literacy, it's leverage, and it's longevity. Take it from me, you guys. 10 years ago, I literally was $100,000 in debt, and now we have multiple millions. So if you're really serious about scaling past $1 million, go in and comment the word million below, and I'll send you the link to join my next free investing class, and we can work through this step by step together. I look to see you soon, and we'll see you on the next one.